Joe coming to you here Monday, day 244 of 366. And I am super tired today. We've been going non-stop framing the house. Some of you probably saw the post. We had a complete rip out of the floors, subfloors, hardwood floors, taking out the walls, taking out windows, taking out rafters, reframing it up. And ultimately, that is the game of real estate sometimes. But I love those ones like that because now we can make that thing absolutely the way that someone's going to want it. And it will sell within the one or two first buyers. And that is the blessing, to go out there and see the vision beforehand. Because I know Kathy and Chuck and some of these people that look at these properties like, I don't understand what the heck is Joe doing. What is he looking at? That thing is the ugliest piece of property I've ever seen. Do not buy that. But as promised, Georgia, I said I was going to have a special guest this evening, talk about a very powerful subject of why do we always focus on the negative. We can have 10 positive things happen to us, and that one negative thing that happens to us, we focus on the negative. We can have 10 people over here, Sandy, talking about something negative, and 10 people over here talking about something positive. We're going to go to talk, see what the guy that's talking, and see the girls talking about the negative thing. Why does the mind focus on the negative? So without further ado, I want to introduce my co-host, Kathy Schirmer.
How are you?
Good to see you, Kathy. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. So Kathy and I had a very powerful experience this weekend.
Right.
We had some house guests over here, and what happens, James, is that our mind always goes back to the negative.
Absolutely.
As a little kid, little boy, little girl, we have these things that happen to us. We hang on to that. And as I was having a conversation with Wojo, when you watch this, brother, so here's what happens is, as we start shifting our consciousness into that negative energy. Off here. Oh, we have a board meeting coming up here at 8 o'clock, so we got 10 minutes with you guys. So if you have any questions about this, go ahead and post below. We'll get back to that with you. So ultimately, the mind's always going to go back to, why do we focus on the little negative things when we have all these positive things going on around us? We have our health, we have our family, we have our friends, we have a roof over our heads, we have fresh water. So, little Isaiah, share the story of what happened to little Isaiah.
So, we had Isaiah, his mom, and grandfather came to stay with us. Isaiah is an avid fisherman. So, he was taken out, I want to say 2 nights ago, and they caught 25 fish. He came in here screaming, I caught 25 fish, I caught 25 fish, and he was super excited. So, now the next day he goes, and he comes back, and he runs to the house, and he runs over to me. And I go, so, how was it? He said, I fell in the water. I said, oh, so you didn't catch any fish? And he walked away. Well, I find out about 10 minutes later, he caught 60 fish. So I kept thinking, what is it? Why did he not mention the fish? Because when he fell in the water, the adults laughed at him, which is a normal reaction. But we remember we're dealing with children. So he was embarrassed. So I didn't want him to associate that second fishing trip with just embarrassment. So Joe was reinforcing, how many fish did you catch? And he was like, 60. And he kept saying
it was 30 that day and 25 the day before.
Oh, I thought it was more than that.
So
but
he caught 30 fish, right?
Okay,
so he couldn't focus on falling in the water.
But I think what you can do, especially with children, is reinforce the positive. Because when I was in 8th grade, the boys used to call me Kathy Longlegs. And I was really upset. I was like, oh, they're so mean, they're so this. And my father said to me, you know, I know it bothers you now, but I guarantee you when you're older, you having long legs is going to make you very happy. And he said it over and over and over. So whenever I thought about Kathy Longlegs, I never thought of it as an insult. I thought about my father's words. And sure enough, it was true. So I think we have to try to compensate for the negative initial reaction by doing something. Making and reminding, especially a child, that it was a really good day, and the good that came out of it was that you caught more fish than you ever caught before.
Yes, and I know he went out with Grandpa for his birthday, and they were out there for 3, 4, 5 hours, and they caught 0. So how fast does the mind go from 25 to 30 fish on day 2 to I fell in the water and I'm embarrassed and they laughed at me?
Right. So it's emotions. So ultimately what it comes down to is your emotions. It's how it made you feel. So when we go into a store and we say, I always get on the wrong line, right when we're food shopping, I can't believe I got on this line. And you say, I never get on a short line. Well, the fact of the matter is you probably have. So I said to you, sir, miss, I'm going to open here on line 8. Come over and I'll let you check you out. But there was no emotion involved in that. There was emotion, although negative, on you waiting in the line and going, oh, it's taking forever. I have stuff I have to do. So I think it has a lot to do with the emotion we put towards something.
And also, as you say those things, that this always happens to me. I get on the wrong line. Guess what? The next time you're going to get on the wrong line again. So be careful what we're telling ourselves.
Right.
Be careful what we're focusing on. And Kathy's absolutely right. Anytime there's an emotional attachment to some kind of an outcome, we focus on that negative energy. We focus on that negative group. What's going on over here? And this guy over here's got a bunch of stuff going on. He hit the lottery. Nobody wants to talk to him. They want to go find out what misery loves company.
Oh, without
So I want
doubt.
to recognize some people logging on here. Good to see you, Danielle, Aaron Allison, Cheryl Clark. Good to see you, Aunt Jan. We love you. We miss you. Hello, Carol Ann. Mr. Hepner, always good to see you. James Clapp, good to see you. Everybody here logging on. Always a pleasure to see you guys here on Facebook Live. What an absolute powerful subject.
Yeah, extremely powerful.
How do we get out of that negative mindset, Gene? I know Gene, you've been doing an amazing job. I'm very proud of you. And the reality is we have to consistently put the time and effort into the things that we want to attract into this world based upon what we speak, what we think, and how we act.
Right. So what I would recommend, and you could try this and let us know what happens, is I decided to tell myself that when I go to any parking lot into a store, I'm going to get a space, no matter what. I said to myself for years now, I say, no problem. It could be middle of Christmas, not one spot to be found. And I was like, I always get a spot. 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 And sure enough, I always get a spot. And at first you might think, you know what, I don't know, maybe I won't get a spot. But you know what, in time, you will just feel it and the energy will allow it to happen. And when I tell you I always get a spot, Joe goes, I don't know about a spot today. And I'm like, oh, that person's leaving. So try it. Do it with something and see if it happens.
And that's me with my negative energy saying, every time I pull this parking lot, I'm always parking off to this because I never got a spot up front. And then when I met Kathy, she's like, oh no, I always get a spot. So we pull into Walmart in Danbury. Every spot's taken. As soon as we start pulling up an alleyway, here's somebody backing out 2 or 3 rows from the front. So it's like, you
Absolutely.
always get a spot. So
Yeah.
we can focus on the things that we want to
Achieve
or results in our life. Or we can focus on falling in the water and not catching any fish.
Right, and here's a real quick example. So when Joe and I went to see the house on Tarrywile, I fell in love with it. Joe loved it. We always wanted to live on the water. He reaches out to me the next day at work and goes, I have some bad news. That house, they got an offer and accepted it. And I said, oh, that's okay. I'm going to live in that house. And he was like, okay, maybe I wasn't clear. They got an offer and they accepted it. I said, oh, no, it's okay.
You said specifically, you don't understand.
Yeah.
We are going to live in that house.
I had no doubt in my mind. And he was like, okay. So every couple days I was like, anything from the realtor? And I could tell he was kind of like, oh, this poor woman. I feel so bad for my wife. She's convinced we're going to live in this house. And so far there's nothing. They're going to move in. So another week passes, another week passes. I'm like, anything. Calls me work. He goes, oh, you're never going to believe this. They called about the house. The house is an as-is sales, and the people that put in the offer said they wouldn't take it unless there was a new roof put on. It goes, so we have the option to buy it. And I was like, oh. But just, you know what? Sometimes I think we have that inside of us, our gut instinct. We just feel it, that we know it's going to happen. But I had no doubt in my mind that this was going to happen, and I think I put the energy out there to make it happen. So try it and let us know how it works out.
And when you know, and then that's an absolutely true story. And the backside of that was I went out and found another lakefront house, put the offer in, got it accepted, and the next day they called up, so we ended up buying both houses simultaneously, like $5,000 in mortgages. And Kathy's like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, the insanity of
I don't want to live on that house because I Lake, and you guys in Denver know about Terrawalla Lake. The fishing there is phenomenal.
gosh, it was so
we used to
beautiful.
catch 100 fish in like 2
Absolutely.
hours. So these stories that we talk about, the number of fish that we catch, Isaiah witnessed it firsthand. So Isaiah, when you watch this, Marissa, share this video with Isaiah. Just know that Isaiah, you're going to get what you focus on, buddy. So if you can worried about what people think about you, you fell in the water with your new shoes, you're going to get in trouble by your mom. Grandpa's laughing at you. Uncle Joe was smiling. I didn't really laugh. I was just smiling. Like Grandpa was doing some laughing, but
Yeah.
it is funny, right? So as a human being, it's funny, but to a little kid, it's very hurtful.
Absolutely.
So we have to be very careful about what we say, what we think about, and the things that we do to our little ones, our nieces, our nephews,
Right.
our children, because those are the anchors that will stay with us forever.
And we all have an experience in our lives where at childhood somebody said something, somebody laughed at us, somebody did something, and we've carried it to adulthood. And although we've lived through it and we're okay with what was said now because we accepted that there's, we were kids and it was an adult and they were making fun of, I got teased a lot, but it's still, I still feel like it sits inside of us and it'll kind of rear its ugly head every once in a while. So be conscious of your words.
And I think a lot of us, as we get older in life, we feel bad about some of the things that we've done. So you can go back and mend those fences, reach out to those people and say, hey, look, man, I was an idiot back then. I didn't know any better. I was just following what everybody else was doing. We were making fun of you. I apologize for making fun of you. If there's something I did, something I can do to make this up to you.
Right.
I would really like to make amends because I can still remember doing those things to you. And I would like to let that energy go and know that I apologize and I'm sorry.
Absolutely. And you can also, during your meditation as an adult, go in and comfort your inner child and tell them that everything's going to be okay. And what was said was not meant to hurt you. It was just that people were hurting and they wanted to see you hurt.
Yes. So I hope you guys got some awesome meditation. Got me thinking about meditation from
I was like, are we
this
meditating?
message, and that we love you, we appreciate you. Thank you for watching this journey, and we're going to get on a board meeting here for the Rise as One Foundation Incorporated. Ever since we opened that thing over a year ago, we had to do a monthly meeting, as many of you know. We're staying on top of this game, and yes, it is the last day of the month, so good to see you, Kevin. Good to see you, Tyler. Good to see you, David. Hope you guys are having a blessed and fantastic Monday. Know that the mind's always going to go back to what's it's emotionally attached to. And so many of sedate from so many things is like, don't sedate.
Yeah.
Face that demon, face that energy. I know there's a bunch of people out there go through these things. I've gone through it. Kathy's gone through it.
Absolutely.
Almost every one of us has gone through this. And now we see little Isaiah was a reminder. These kids teach us so much. It's like he caught 30 fish, but he focused on falling in the water, getting in trouble, and being
embarrassed.
Mm-hmm. So know that.
Which was a normal reaction.
Now he can hang on to that for the rest of his life. He can get to be our age, right, Kevin? We can be in our 50s and still hanging on to that negative energy from when we were kids. You know what? We have the opportunity every single day to choose and decide of how we react to these things or how we respond to them. We can let that stuff go, or we can hang on to it, let it hold us back, and then on our deathbed we can say, I wish I could have, I should have, and I would have. The reality is you could have.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you guys. Keep showing up. I'm telling you, they have not seen nothing yet when it's all said.